Happy Monday, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the Lockdown Series Volume 2, Episode 14. We are talking about instant gratification and if it has become a pandemic in football. Has it gone too far? Let's see. Joining me once again this evening is the legend that is Super Kevin Campbell.
Oh!
How you doing
everybody?
This Monday?
Hi, Sophie. Hi, everybody in chat. I'm good. Thank you very much. Had a good weekend, apart from obviously our result. And here I am, happy.
I love it.
Fighting fit and ready for another week.
I loved our exchanges with Tom Brady yesterday. That was awesome. You guys may not know, but Casey loves watching American sports
NFL.
too.
Yeah.
He watches the NFL. He's an NBA junkie for sure. Loves watching the NBA. So we exchange messages often about American sports as well. That was 43 years old, Super Kev.
And his first year at the Bucks and no preseason. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it didn't have one of his best weapons as well in Antonio Brown. The guy's phenomenal.
I mean, he smashed the first half, second half, threw 3 interceptions, but still managed the game when there was 2 minutes left, and the Packers didn't. And when it mattered, he pulled them through. Great defensive display as well from the Bucks. They were unbelievable yesterday. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome everybody. Let's see who we got. Jackie Latouche. Hey, hi Sophie, and Super Kev. My name now is three barreled, Casey.
Three barreled. I like it, Jackie. Yes.
Hello, Newman. I know what you're going for there. Just for you, I'll say Babastadopoulos. But he's gone. He signed for Olympiacos. So Gradis is gone forever. He's back in the motherland, in the capital. He's back in Piraeus. Everything is fine, everybody. So Gradis is good. He's safe. We got rid of 3 snitches. One more to go, Casey. One more snitch to go.
Well, apparently they're trying to work it out that they can get rid. So let's see.
Let's see. And everyone is all obviously now changing their O to Odegaard. And we'll talk about him, but not tonight. We're going to talk about him. Once everything's signed, sealed, delivered, and we see him in the Arsenal shirt, then we will talk about him. Hi,
Good
real
tune.
captain.
Good tune, Soph.
Yeah, you like that one, huh?
Yeah, I like it.
I like it a lot. Good evening, Bernadette. Welcome to the show. Are we married couple? Well, not so, well, you know, in a football way, completely. As football folks would definitely
behave yourself, Bernadette. There you again.
Vietnam. Come on,
wow.
Casey. I love it. We've had Yemen, and in the last week we haven't had a Vietnamese listener. Welcome, Nick. Thank you so much for joining us. No, you haven't come to the wrong channel. We're not talking about NFL. We're just doing the hello, everybody. Hello, giving everyone. And we've got some big announcements to make this week, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to keep you on your toes, everybody. And we'll do that tomorrow or on Wednesday. But let's just say on Friday, you guys should all be prepared. The chat row kings right here, the Newmans and the Ameses and the Duncans and the Pramods and the Andrews of the world, be ready because you might enjoy what we have to offer on Friday. Right, KC, big news today in football. I wanted to do something a little bit different this evening. We have a game tomorrow. We'll get to that at the very end of the show. But I wanted to talk to you about the instant gratification in football. You come from an era when it started where the core values were really winning trophies, not sacrificing any trophies, and fighting to the death, tooth and nail for silverware. That's how you were born and bred as a footballer. That was what was ingrained in you when you were coming through the ranks at Arsenal as well. And football has become, for sure, an instant gratification business. Show me today what you can do for me. Yesterday doesn't count and tomorrow isn't guaranteed. We saw today the sacking of Frank Lampard. Some people will call it ruthless. It's the Chelsea way, okay? This is what they do. This is how they handle their business. One of the things I wanted to ask everyone in chat, and they can get rolling on this, is would you sacrifice being or doing it the Arsenal way and doing it the Chelsea way with the managerial revolving door and winning as many trophies as they have over the last few years? And I want to start there with you before we kind of get stuck into the nuts and bolts. I've got some stats for you, Casey, on managers and stuff.
Sophie, I've got to ask you a question. Are we going to do real questions, or are we going to do just hypothetical questions?
No, we're doing real. Well, it's always real here.
No, but the reason why I asked that is because Arsenal cannot do it the Chelsea way. They can't, because Roman Abramovich has invested $1 billion of his own money into the football club. That changes everything, because the reason why he can chop and change is because he's already got so much million invested in the squad, and then he gave him another 250 to invest. It's astronomical numbers. So when you mentioned, would the fans like to do it that way? Unfortunately for me, it's a bit of a no. It's a shut off, because we can't do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's hard.
Yeah. They're still paying Mutu's wages. Spot on. No, I love it. Listen, the instant gratification thing isn't just about money. And here's where I want to take it, right? So some clubs are ruthless, and some warrant to be ruthless because that's their model. I don't think anyone can argue with the way Chelsea have done business, because their owner has deep pockets, and he's put his deep pockets, his own hands into his own deep pockets. Our owner, who has deep pockets, doesn't do it that way. He doesn't put his hands into his own deep pockets. Roman's been fronting Chelsea for many, many, many years now, and it's yielded Champions League, Europa League, multiple Premier Leagues. It's yielded the FA Cups as well. And they've seen some of the best footballers in the world come to their club. But I think instant gratification too, Casey, can be quantified a little bit, not just fiscally, but also managerially. Okay. So some clubs think, like Watford, for example, who do they think they are? Sacking 3-4 managers, bringing, Kiko Flores back, doing it the way they have done. Newcastle, the same thing, chopping and changing. And really, they don't have an owner who's putting their money where their mouth is at all. But when the shit hits the fan, it's the manager's fault. I think there's a time that comes where clubs can make changes, right? And you could argue that Arsenal didn't do that after the 2015 FA Cup, where they probably should have said to Wenger, you know what, this is the perfect time to part ways. You can go. 2 FA Cups, you've been a legend, and now's the time for us to rebuild Arsenal in the Premier League. And if we'd have done that, Casey, in 2015 and let him walk off into the sunset, I'm not saying invest billions and millions or whatever, but just change the manager to infuse a new fight and challenge in the Premier League and be competitive again.
But this is the problem, Sophie. Again, I'm going to go back to what I always tend to say. This problem has been there for 12 years, Sophie. It's the culture. The culture at Arsenal is not a fighting culture. It's not a culture that's supposed to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea's culture, remember, Chelsea is nowhere near Arsenal. Then all of a sudden they got an owner who had to microwave them from where they were to challenging. And how did he do that? He had to throw the money at it. Great that they had John Terry coming through, and obviously bought Lampard, bought Joe Cole. So there was an English core there. But you look at the world-class players, the Makalele's and Drogba's and all this come into the football club. Arsenal's mentality since leaving Highbury has not been to be the best. So when you're at the top, you're not trying to be the best. And when you're the manager and you're not trying to be the best, Sophie, we have a problem, Houston. We have a serious problem. And it's only now we knew Arsenal were probably a centre-half and a centre midfielder away from winning the title for a couple of years.
Definitely the Leicester year.
Yeah, but it never got the point is, Sophie, it never got addressed. If we could see it as fans and if opposition teams could see it, Sophie, why couldn't Arsene Wenger, who is a great manager, why couldn't the board see it? It's only ever been addressed, finally, by Arteta this season.
Also, Casey, it's identifying the talent, right? So there was an opportunity to sign Kante and we signed Xhaka. There was an opportunity to sign other CBs and we signed Mustafi. There was opportunities to sign left backs and we signed Kolasinac. And we've mismanaged the money. And sometimes it's hit and miss. KC, in the transfer market, it's a gamble sometimes, isn't it? There's guarantees, but then sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen. Look what's happened to Chelsea. And I want to ask you this question because Timo Werner and Kai Havertz were superstars in Bundesliga. It just hasn't worked for them at Chelsea. So you say to yourself, yet. And is it because of the manager and the way he's managing them or the style of play? Or is it because they're adapting to a new league, a new country? And I think also people forget that Kai Havertz had COVID. Like, these people are human beings as well. And he had it pretty bad, apparently. So do you think the sacking of Lampard was harsh?
Very harsh.
Tell me why, Casey.
No, I think it's very harsh. Look, I know Frank Lampard probably done such a great job last season because he had no money to spend. He had to make do. And remember, it wasn't great all the time, but he's got young players there who fought and scrapped. And look where they finished. So they qualified for the Champions League. I'm sure that was his MO at the start of the season. Yep. Frank, if you can get us into the Champions League, you've swum the channel. Fantastic. So the moment the moment they say, right, you can go and buy who you want, not only does that add extra pressure, now you've got a harder job to mesh everybody together. Because whereas a lot of these homegrown players were getting game time and they were flourishing, now you're bringing in bigger signings, and some of those guys who were playing aren't playing anymore. So, you've got more, not only mad management to do, you've got a gelling process to do. Havertz is a player. Werner is a player. Ziyech is a player. Silva is a player. But they still have to adjust. They're coming from leagues that are not the Premier League. So they have to adjust. And we've seen them have some teething problems, which happen. Listen, watching Premier League on television to playing in it is totally different. Yeah. You could watch it and think, I could do a job there. Then you get into the Premier League and you don't realize how fast, physical it is, the demands on you. And then obviously you got the pressure of the fans. So it's a bit of an awakening for Frank Lampard. But I thought, Chelsea made a statement saying that they want to develop their homegrown players and bring stars in and develop the football club. And now they've just cut his throat.
I mean, and he gave Mount the chance. He gave Reece James the chance. He's given Tammy Abrahams a chance as well. He kind of nurtured and wanted to have a little bit like you and I've talked about previously on the show, Casey, is being a London club, having a bit of a British core and backbone to your team. And being part of that culture, I think, is important, just like any team in Germany or Spain or Italy would do. So if Frank Lampard had won the FA Cup against us, I don't think that changes anything for how Chelsea decided today.
No chance it doesn't, because of the poor run that they were on. And you know what is probably the most significant part of all this, Sophie? Tuchel was available. If the manager isn't available, then it's something where they could just keep an eye on it. But the fact of the matter is, Chelsea are there with a squad full of top players. They're looking at the manager and looking where they are. And here's a man, Thomas Tuchel, who's done bits with Dortmund, the PSG, etc., waiting. He's free. So it's like, the grass is greener. Mm-hmm. So they pulled the trigger.
And rumor has it too that they had inquired about Pochettino and he said he couldn't wait, and he's taking he took the PSG job, of course. So one of the things, and this is all going to circle back to the Arsenal, of course, and you know where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Football has become so much about money, Casey, whether it's TV rights, whether it's player contracts, whether it's, sponsorships and, third-party partnerships, collaborations. Everything in the modern game is surrounded by money. When you were playing, of course, money was important, but it was very much a different time, wasn't it? And this is why I've come full circle to the instant gratification of what can you do for me now? What have you done for me lately? Versus Sir Alex Ferguson. If he was in today's world, he'd be sacked by Man United. He wouldn't have lasted. He wouldn't have made it. And now when you look at today's world, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's the example here. Why wouldn't Chelsea afford Frank the same grace that Manchester United have given to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? It's really interesting. This is what kind of fans can't get their heads wrapped around, Casey.
Do you know, Sophie, fans are so emotional on a result by result basis. But I always say, take the emotion out of it for a minute and look at what Arsenal are. Arsenal are a club who have not had a rudder, really. They've had experienced managers. The team have let the club down because they've been in some good positions to get results and win trophies or qualify for the Champions League again, but fell miserably in the league against the likes of Crystal Palace and Brighton, etc. Got to the Europa League final, and got smashed up by Chelsea, and then the season after that, which was a decent season for Unai Emery, the wheels fell off. Mm-hmm. Now, it fell off a little bit under Arsene Wenger, let's be honest, near the end. It fell off under Emery. Mikel Arteta gets hold of the team. It starts a bit weird. We start going through a little bit of teething problems. Then the COVID hits. Then we come back, and then all of a sudden, they look in the cup. They look half decent, and Mikel Arteta gets them into shape and everything, and they win a cup, which is fantastic. But we do know there's a bigger picture, Sophie. And you rightly said, you're tired of FA Cups. You want to do it in the league. You want to be in the Champions League, etc. We all do. We all want that. But this is the problem. This is the issue that Arsenal have. Chelsea don't really have it because, remember, they've shelled out millions and millions on all these quality players that if Chelsea wanted to sell a few players, they could sell a few players to make money to buy others. Mm-hmm. We don't have that. That's why we're having to pay our players off to go.
Yeah, we're trying to get rid of them.
We're trying to get them off the wage bill so we can soak up a couple of loans, and then we can go again in the summer. That's what it is.
And it doesn't necessarily mean we can reinvest all of that either, Casey.
Exactly, Sophie. So I understand where fans are emotional. I understand that. But when you've been on the inside, you really have to take the emotion out of it and look at Arsenal for what it is. Arsenal is a club that have not wanted to be the best they can be for over a decade. That's the fact. Arsenal are not that club anymore. Mikel Arteta wants it to be that club, but he's come into a culture that he probably doesn't recognize. He's probably thinking, what's going on?
It's really difficult to clear up, as who said it here? Newman, and also MK as well. 190 million lost on luxury players. Newman, it's clearing up Wenger's mess. It's very, very difficult. This is also great news. Thank you, Danny, and everyone. Get in, Wickham.
Of course. Let it be the end. Let it be the end.
It's very, very difficult to clear up that kind of mess that has become like an institutionalized mess over a decade plus. I mean, really, since we got to the Emirates is when the culture and the DNA of the club changed, where we penny pinch, but at the same time, we used to make these marquee signings and throw the carrot and dangle it in front of fans. Hey, we signed Santi Cazorla. Hey, we signed Mesut Ozil. Now we've got Alexis Sanchez. But we never backed it up, like you said, Casey, with, well, hold on a second. What about defense? What about a DM? Yeah. What about all of those things? And so it feels like we've been pacified with, key signings, and the club hasn't really built on that, right?
They've fed us a line, Sophie. Let's put all the chips on the table. The club fed us a line and said, when we're moving to the Emirates, we will be moving there to challenge at the top table with the Bayern Munich, Real Madrids, all of these teams. Sophie, we got sold down the river without a paddle because the fans were, oh yeah, great. But they never took the emotion out of it and said, what are you doing? Because you know as well as I do, if we'd have got that central defender and that centre midfielder, we would have won the league.
That year Leicester won it. I think we would
have won the league. We would have won the league.
Yeah. And also shame on Spurs and Arsenal that season, really, because Spurs could have won the league that season too. But you and I know that when that header went in from Danny Welbeck against Leicester at the Emirates, we were all like, this is it.
Momentum was just...
We're going to break the duck. This is it. This is finally going to be the year. And the momentum shifted all the way to us. I just want to go back to this comment that's... Stuart made because he was talking.
But also, Sophie, if them players had the right culture, we still would have won it. Because we finished second in the league that year.
Yep.
After beating Leicester, we should have been kicking on. But the culture weren't right.
Right. And it hasn't. It was an enabling culture, wasn't it? It was I'm just going to stroke you as opposed to fuel you, fire you, rip you, bench you. It was too polite. It was too nice. It was too all of those things. I can't find it. Oh, Stuart, here we go. Stuart, we hear this want for instant gratification every day on Arsenal channels. I don't subscribe to that point of view. As my old mum says, patience is a virtue. And this is the point of the show, Stuart. Thank you very much for your comment, is that you can criticize Mikel Arteta after a game. You can question his choices. But, just wanting to sack managers over and over again doesn't necessarily yield, better strategies going forward, Casey. Does it, really?
No.
And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is now the benchmark and the example for patience being a virtue. This time last season, maybe it was a little earlier, but he was in 14th or 15th position. He was absolutely being ripped to shreds by the media, the press. And say what you want about Manchester United being top of the league right now, because maybe the league is all over the place this season, but they're there. Mm-hmm. The table doesn't lie. I'd swap with them,
if you don't mind. I'd swap with them.
Right?
Yeah.
So looking at what Chelsea, just a month ago, Chelsea were on top of the league and everyone was saying like, wow, is Frank Lampard going to win the league? Like, can this team really do it? And he has 4 or 5 bad results. And obviously the ruthlessness of Chelsea is very different. But you look at what Manchester United have done with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Casey, and you say to yourself, you got to give them some credit for having that patience and having the virtue for that patience as well. And not caving in.
Yeah, look, you've got to give the hierarchy some credit. That's for sure. Because even when the fan base was screaming, And I live in Manchester. The fan base is screaming. They held fast because they know knee-jerk reactions do not win you anything. They don't win you anything. Do you know, if they would have went with what the fans wanted, probably the new manager would have gone. If that makes sense. So what's the you know what, that they've invested a lot into that squad, Sophie.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the issues. If you're Manchester United, if you're Chelsea, if you're Man City or whatever, you've invested fortunes into your squad. Mm-hmm. You get a new manager in, and the new manager is going to want some new players.
Right. Exactly.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer he bought Bruno Fernandes, who has made a massive difference to Manchester United.
KC, I'm going to get to that because I just want to address this comment from Arnold. What are you talking about, Sophie? Arteta got the job because Emery got sacked. Of course he got the job because Emery got sacked. But also, you guys, I think Lampard and Arteta almost had this similar parallel, this story. Lampard, much more of a legend than an ex-player. Let's be honest. Arteta, an ex-player who was a nice captain, but they were hired for similar reasons. Chelsea had an image issue after what happened with Sarri, even though he had won Europa League. There was a disjointed disconnect between the club and the fans. They weren't happy. They're very upset. I mean, they even won a trophy and they're upset, but that's the standards that they have, right? But they needed to bring someone in who could manage the process, especially with the ban that they had in the transfer market. Arsenal similarly had a image issue after Unai Emery. Whether you agreed with Emery's reign or not, there was a disconnect, a discord. There was anarchy, really. Even at the end of Wenger's reign, there was anarchy. People, fans flying planes and all that type of stuff. But both were bought in for a reason, Casey, I think, to just manage the business, okay, toe the line in a sense, and understand that for Lampard in his first year, for sure, he wasn't going to be able to do anything. But unlike Lampard, Arteta really had nothing to work with. Nothing.
Well, look. They were brought in to manage handicaps. Mm-hmm. They had a handicap. So Lampard obviously couldn't sign anybody. Arteta had inherited this broken football club with players who were on great contracts, and the culture in the dressing room isn't right. Mm-hmm. And I know who had the harder job. The harder job was Arteta.
100%. I agree with that.
So, again, when you take the emotion out of it, Lampard done a great job. Of course he did in that first season. But who done a really good job as well, even to win some silverware? Arteta. Arteta had, to not only beat Man City in the semi and then beat Chelsea in the final, but to try and get a modicum of connectivity out of that squad. Mm. To win in the final. And did you notice what happened in the back end of that season? He dumped Mesut Ozil.
Yeah.
He dumped Mesut Ozil because he realized, hold on a minute, this isn't right. This isn't right. And if he's going to be a manager, and you know what? I'm not saying Mikel Arteta can't get the sack, Sophie. I've never said he can't get the sack. But what I'm saying is he has to do it his way. Because if he doesn't do it his way, he's going to be kicking himself for doing it another way. And he's got certain handicaps that he has to overcome. Now we're starting to see some of these dead wood players leaving the club, can't even get money for them, Sophie. Again, This is broken Arsenal. How can we have these guys on hundreds of thousands of pounds and we don't even get £1 million for them? We're having to shell money out to get rid of it.
Isn't that insane? Have you ever seen anything like it, Casey? I mean, I cannot believe it. Stuart, I agree with you. Yes, I'm a Generation Xer. And I was brought up that if you want something bad enough, you work for it, you work really hard for it. Nothing really worth having is handed to you on a plate. Completely agree with that. there's this instant gratification with money these days. If you pay for it, you get it. You know, if you spend, you yield results. And I think we've seen that with, you know, let's be honest, before money came along for Chelsea and Manchester City, they were two of the most irrelevant clubs in English football. Vialli had some success in the cup, right? KC, before Ranieri came along, but Manchester City and Chelsea were not nowhere close.
Nowhere near it.
No. Money changed their clubs. There's no two ways about it. And I'm not being a bitter fan. I'm just stating a fact.
Again, we talk about they had to microwave the process. How do you microwave the process, Sophie? By spending fortunes on the best players. You still need a manager to manage them. Of course you do. But you can microwave the process if you have enough money to buy the best players around.
So here's what here's what I want to ask you, because there are a few people that have mentioned it in the chat. And welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. You're listening to the Highbury Squad. This is our lockdown series, Volume 2, Episode 14. We're talking about instant gratification and if it's gone too far in football. Let's talk about, because my juxtaposition to the instant gratification is there's money, but there's also really good management of a club. And a few comments have come in, Casey, and you've been eyeing a few players at a couple of these clubs. But let's talk about Leicester and Southampton, for example. Leicester, you'd say, great ownership. They got lucky with their new ownership, didn't they? Owners who understand, who are willing to have the patience and invest. But at the same time, they showed some ruthlessness by sacking the manager that won them the Premier League the very season after. Southampton, they nurture these incredible talent. Their academy is one of the best in the country, but they're ruthless in that they know in order to survive, it's a conveyor belt. Sell them. If you think about Southampton's players, KC, the team they could have been.
Sophie, just over a year ago, Southampton was second in the bottom and got beat 9-0. How many of the fans, of Arsenal fans, would have accepted that? None, not one. Would have accepted getting beat 9-0 and being second bottom. But what did the hierarchy at Southampton do? They battened down the hatches and said to the manager, "We believe in you. Keep doing what you're doing. We see what you're going to do." And look at them now. Leicester, the same. Leicester were always building. And here's the other thing about a Leicester or a Southampton. The names on the back of the shirt, a lot of people don't know them. But the way they play with an energy and a fight that we lack. Why? Why do we lack it? Why do we lack that energy and that fight? Because the culture's changed. Do you know, Sophie, what should have happened on Saturday in the FA Cup was those players who got the opportunity to play would have given Southampton murder. Should have given them murder. We're the Arsenal. But the culture's all wrong, Sophie. I've said it to you before. Eddie Nketiah. People are giving Eddie Nketiah. Eddie Nketiah hasn't even played 6 months of football non-stop. League football. How all of a sudden do we expect him or Balogun or any of these guys to just come in and pick up? No, it doesn't work like that. Football is a process. Unless you're incredibly unbelievable like a Rooney or somebody like that, you're gonna need to learn your trade. And our problem is they're giving Balogun gratification, Sophie. And he hasn't even started a Premier League game.
Yeah, I know. And do you agree with, where's that comment that just came up that's from Gunatel, Leicester and Southampton have top-class managers, that's the difference? Because
It isn't the difference. It isn't the difference. It isn't. It is not the difference.
Brendan Rodgers, you could say, inherited... not from Craig Shakespeare, of course, but he inherited a Leicester side on the up in the sense that you got great owners. They're going to invest in the club. They won the Premier League. The culture there was
Sophie, most of the Leicester players, Leicester were a club who done brilliant to win the title.
Mm.
The majority of that squad was still in place when Brendan Rodgers went there. There were certain additions who had been added. There were certain youngsters coming through the ranks, and he sprinkled a little bit of sugar on the squad. Do you know something? Half of them players, do you remember who's the lad at the back who's from Manchester United?
Johnny Evans.
Johnny Evans. Do you remember he got linked to Arsenal?
Yeah.
Arsenal fans, no, we don't want him.
We were snobs.
We start getting snobby about decent players who are fighters. But that's all right. When you see him go to Leicester and all of a sudden Leicester are up there, and you look at us and we're struggling, having to spend all this money. We could have got him virtually on a free. But this is the fan base. This is the gratification. And you know what? As fans, sometimes the fans have to take it on the chin as well.
Yeah. This is why, Casey, I would have, for example, I saw a whole bunch of Arsenal fans poo-pooing the opportunity maybe to sign Ryan Bertrand. And I'm like, again, look at Cedric now. Fans have warmed to him. And it's like the dude played in the Premier League for Southampton for a few seasons. The dude's also a Euro winner, okay?
Yep.
And then, Højbjerg at Tottenham. Look at him. He's not a glamour signing. He's not a glamour signing at all, but a solid signing that has improved their team tenfold in that area where he's a specialist. And I think sometimes we get so snobby about who we sign. And I remember the sky was falling at the idea of us signing Johnny Evans, but he's been at the back for them since he signed. I think Pablo brings up a good point here, Casey, because one of my other questions to you is, who's to blame for this instant gratification world that we live in? Is it the fans? Is it the media? Is it social media? Is it the clubs? Is it the clubs?
No, it's a culmination of everything. I believe it's a culmination of everything. And if you don't have the right manager and the board don't have the right mindset, because whatever happens outside of the club, Sophie, it cannot affect the dressing room, and it cannot affect the focus of the football club. So again, let's go back to Leicester, or go back to Southampton, or go back to Manchester United. When all the crap is flying outside, you've got to batten down the hatches, because we know what we want and we are going in this direction. That is it. Fans are going to moan. People are going to throw the toys out the pram. We get it. But you tend to find those clubs who have just stayed on course have risen. Leicester have gone back up. Southampton have gone up now. Manchester United are top of the table. And here we are throwing our toys out the pram yet again. We haven't built anything for 12 years.
No, we haven't. And James, I get your point, but the point was that we're not criticizing Brendan, and Claude Puel, he was good for a minute and then it ended badly. But the point is the structure of the club, the backbone, the ownership, the players were there.
Yes.
So he came into a situation where he could just do his thing. Better managers can come in and just do their thing. And to be fair to Unai Emery and Mikel Arteta, they both inherited an absolute mess. Arsenal was a mess when Wenger left. And anyone inheriting that mantle, the first manager, I think we even said it, Casey, first manager is not going to last. Same at Man United. Tough. David Moyes had a hill to climb. It's so hard, especially when you are coming in and you're replacing a legendary coach. It's not easy. And look at United. They've had to go through 4 or 5 to get to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And he was 1 game away from being sacked, 3 months ago, Casey?
Probably, yeah.
And so as we can criticize what's happening at Arsenal, we can be upset at what's happening at Arsenal, but there is an evolution. There is a movement. And you could argue, and hear me out on this one, everyone. You might think I'm crazy, but this could end up being one of our best windows ever. And there's a reason why I say that.
I know.
Because for years, we've been crying out to get rid of these cliquey, apathetic players. And we are one away from doing that, Casey. And even though, you know, where Odegaard comes in, you know, that we've got Matt Ryan, you know, in the summer, that's the summer. But this particular window, you can see there's a message that they're sending. I think Edu and Arteta are sending to the fans is be patient. We're not living in that instant gratification world. We're getting rid of all the garbage. We're getting rid of the cancer. We're getting rid of the moles and the snitches. Mesut Ozil, gone. Sokratis, gone. Kolasinac, gone. Next, Mustafi potentially in the next few days will be gone. Now you get a sense of him building his team, their culture, and the new DNA.
I think you make a really good point there, Sophie. I think, like I said just before, right? Inside the football club, you cannot live how the fans live. The fans live from game to game, but on the inside, you cannot live. You can't have a manager who reacts to what's going on like that. He has to have a plan. He has to have a focus. That has been our problem, I think, Sophie. We haven't had a plan. But the plan is now is to get that culture right and to get the right players in to do it the way he wants to do it. Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, Willian hasn't worked out. But it happens. There's many players have gone to clubs and it hasn't worked out. So let's park that one up. And do you know what? It will happen again, Sophie. Players will come into Arsenal and it won't work out. So let's leave that on the side. What Mikel Arteta has to do, he has to. Him and Edu have to dive that plan. They've got a plan. They know what they want to do. And nobody, whatever you say on the outside, is going to knock it. They've obviously ratified it with the ownership. And now, for once, Sophie, the ownership are starting to see, hold on a minute. People saying that Arteta is a ruthless. You could say he's being ruthless by digging these guys out and getting rid of them, not playing them, kicking them out the club. Pay them up, get them out because they're cancer. And that's what he's doing. So, you know, that in a sense is being ruthless. And if you remember in the summer, Sophie, we were talking about probably some of the best transfers won't be the incomings, it will be the outgoings.
Yeah.
But we've had to wait a good few months to get it.
Yeah. I'm getting in trouble for calling Sokratis a mole. I never called Sokratis a mole. He was just grouped in the players that we kicked out. He acted like a model pro, but we don't know what went on behind the scenes either. I listen, as a fellow Greek, I adore Sokratis. He's a good guy, but you know, at the end of the day, too expensive, not good enough, and part of the group that we had to get rid of. That's not to say that he was the mole. I mean, it could have been Ozil and Mustafi and Kolasinac, but we're not going to accuse people when we don't know the information at hand. So, yes, everyone defend Sokratis. I like it. Defend the Greeks. Bravo, bravissimo. Well done. So you're listening to the Highbury Squad here with myself and Super Kevin Campbell. We're talking about instant gratification and has the game gone too far with it. We've got you here for 10 more minutes. If there's anything you want to mention in chat, please do so. And yes, that's Big Ben chiming in the background. It makes me feel like I'm back in London, Casey.
Love it. Lovely.
So what's your sense of where this comes in with, we go back to Arsenal, of course, and everything circles back to Arsenal and the patience factor. Clearly, a little bit like Tottenham with Pochettino, even though he didn't win, they gave him time. There was a project. They had this 3 to 5 year plan, right? And then obviously, you know, they lost the Champions League and didn't recover from that. But the club were loyal to him. They stuck with him. He definitely changed that club and the culture and the DNA for a long time. It just, you know, took Jose Mourinho to come in and ruin it for a bit, and hopefully that will continue. But with Mikel Arteta and Edu and what they're doing at the Arsenal, would you say that this summer is going to be the true time we're going to see their teams mold and emerge for next season? Like,
has to.
And even though we want to get back in, here's the thing too. I think, Champions League football, it's not that we'll win the Champions League or we're saying we're going to win the Champions League. We just need to be in it for the money, because this is what it's about. And this is kind of what I'm circling to today in terms of instant gratification and the modern game and everything that comes with it, Super Kev. It's not about, we can win. Ludogorets are in the Champions League. They're never going to win it. Shakhtar Donetsk are in the Champions League. They're not going to win it, but they're in it and they get money and they're able to reinforce their clubs. And I think that's what the focus of the football club is, isn't it, KC? Get back into Champions League football, get the money, continue to reinforce the club.
That is the shout. That is the focus. A club like Arsenal need to be in the biggest competitions. And for what is it now, the 4th year, we're out of it. This shines a big light on who we are as a football club. The fact that we're not in the Champions League anymore, and it's come under the watch of our greatest manager. It's come under the watch of a very experienced manager in Unai Emery. And now Mikel Arteta is left there to try and build something in order for us to get back. We are not the same club as we were when we were qualifying year in, year out. So what we've got to do, we've got to allow the manager to build something. He knows what it takes. And us as fans have to, again, I know it's hard. Sometimes we've got to take the emotion out of it a little bit and really look at the club and ask yourself the question, are we the same Arsenal? We're not.
We're not. And this is when you see this in black and white and you forget, okay, I've got to find it here and put it up in chat, everyone. Just give me a second. Someone made a comment, basically. I can't find it now. Damn. But basically, someone made a point of instant gratification. I think we've been patient. It's been 17 years. 17 years since we've won the Premier League.
Yeah. And remember, Liverpool was 30 years. But you know what? It goes so quick because people forget. Mm-hmm. People forget. People get caught up. Remember, you all of a sudden you're floating down that river, and then you realize the paddles fell in. But you know what? You're going to start using your hands, but the hands ain't doing enough. But it's too late. Once you've realized that, yeah, it is 17 years, and our culture still's crap. We still don't have a culture in the football club. Check that one out, and it's 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, God forbid, Mikel Arteta trying to get a culture in place to get the club moving in the right direction, because for 17 years it hasn't. Yeah, we've won some cups and papered cracks and all that kind, which is great. I love winning trophies. But at the end of the day, Arsenal should not be in this position they are today, and they should not be having to pay players off to get out of the football club because they haven't got the quality of squad. No chance.
Does winning the Europa League become the most important task for Arsenal now for the rest of the season?
Listen, there's some tough teams in that Europa League, and we've got no divine right to say we're going to win it.
No, we have to get past Benfica as well.
Listen, let me tell you something. That's going to be as hard a game as we would have. And do you know what, Sophie? I'm going to be brutally honest. Whether we win it or not, the most important thing is the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Is the culture that the manager is putting in place. Because what I want to know, and probably what you want to know, and what the fans want to know, if an Arsenal team takes that pitch, they're going to reflect what we are. We want a team with quality. We want a team with speed. We want a team with fight. We want a team that represent us properly. Not a team that goes out there and capitulates against Aston Villa at home. Not a team that goes out there and don't turn up, Sophie. No, we want a team, every time they take the pitch, you might not win every game, but you compete and you fight.
Yeah.
This is what Arsenal don't have at the moment.
Yep, and this is what we're trying to do, because players like Tierney and Saka and Martinelli and Partey are hopefully going to change that culture, bring in that fight, that grit, be molded in the new Arsenal way, because we're definitely a different team now. We don't have that same DNA, and hopefully we're going to see that evolution and that change. And with all these other players leaving, hopefully we'll be able to get to that point. And I just wanted to put George's comment up here, because you mentioned it before, KC. We never capitalized during the early Wenger years. Bloody Emirates Stadium, the beginning of all our problems. You mentioned that, and you keep mentioning that because we were sold a tale. And I like to play the what if game every now and again, as you know, KC.
Yeah.
What if he had left in 2015? What if we had a chance maybe to get Pep or Klopp or even Antonio Conte at certain times, and we whiffed on all of it? What if Arteta doesn't win the Europa League and we finish 10th? What happens? Like, do we just continue going down this mediocre road?
No, I don't think it's going down a mediocre road. I think what you've got to do, we've got to take our hits, Sophie, in order to get the culture right. Mm-hmm. We have to. Do you know what we have? We have to go across them hot ashes. We've got to walk across it. We might not like it, Sophie, but we might have to walk across it, because in order to go from no culture to culture, we're going to have to feel some pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're starting I know Arsenal fans don't want to feel the pain. I know. But I think we're going to have to feel some pain, because we are not the same Arsenal anymore. And that needs to change. We need to revert back to how it was.
And when you think about it, we did get to a European final with Emery. We did win the FA Cup with Arteta. So as bad as we've been, you guys, we still put ourselves in the position to win something. Didn't work out for Emery. It worked out for Arteta in the FA Cup. But Stuart brings up a really good point I wanted to bring up here. It's been 17 years. What makes people think it's going to be turned around in 2 years? And this is the whole point, Stuart. Thank you so much for your comment. Really good one.
Good comment. Yeah.
It's so true, isn't it, Casey? I mean, I've gone ballistic about Arteta at certain points. Ballistic is maybe I have gone ballistic a couple of times.
No, is that where you're going to say an understatement, Sophie? No, because it was
trying to bail myself out.
Yeah, no way out, love. Yeah, no way out.
But it's been because of criticizing him for starting with the Socrates, the Kolasinacs of the world, and making Mustafi captain in a couple games. And that's, where we've lost our minds as sensible Arsenal fans is, come on, if you really want to change the DNA and culture, do not keep faith with these players. But what we're seeing is he tried them, it failed, and now he's like, they're out. So it's kind of like, with family, when you're like, let me talk to her. I think she'll change. I've got this. I'll have a conversation. You have the conversation, you come back to your mum and dad and you're like, no, ain't going to happen. Forget about it. And that's kind of what it feels like has happened, doesn't it, Casey, in terms of how he wants to move forward. And
I mean, you've got to remember, Sophie, you've been in management positions where you're running the team, and you back yourself to maybe try and win hearts and minds sometimes. You know what is going on, and you think to yourself, well, let me see who's going to come on my side in, with the culture. And then you quickly start to understand he's not with me. Mm-hmm. He was showing like he wanted to be with me, but he's not with me. And that's not everybody tells you first day that they're with you. And then as you go along and you start managing, and probably the COVID thing helped Arteta at the back end of last season, because it gave him a bit of time, and then it was people get back into training so we can get them trained and get them set up. And we moved it forward in the cups. We weren't great in the league. I understand that. But in the cups, we kind of hit the ground running, and we done something, and we won a trophy, and we were all happy. Was it paper and cracks? Yes. And if you remember what Arteta said, he said, the club isn't where I want it to be. That means the club and the culture. So he knows he needs to move people out. But some of those players who we don't like, he had to use them.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's why he thought, okay, I'm going to have to use them as much as I can, experience-wise, until the likes of the youngsters start coming through. And I need to get to January and I need to get to the summer. And luckily, he went for a tough time. Luckily, we got to January. And, he's going to move and shake. He has to. But, Sophie, I'm going to revert back to it. And everybody in the chat, I'll revert back to it. The fact of the matter is, we are having to pay players to leave.
This is unbelievable.
This is
probably the best point made on the podcast tonight. Is this what Casey's saying? We're having to pay people to leave our club. Can you believe this? This is how bad it's been. So there's Imran, I saw your point, and a couple of others talking about why is Arteta, who made Arteta God? Why is he getting all these passes and stuff like that? You've got Lampard, who qualified for the Champions League last season, got his team into a cup final. They didn't win it. Arteta's languishing in the league. We're only 2 points behind Chelsea, guys, and they are 2 or 3, and they spent 300 million, and we are paying players to leave our club. We bought Partey and Gabriel, but we're paying players to leave our club. So I think the reason they get a pass is because they inherited such a awful, rancid culture and business model that they're having to turn it around. And as companies, if you buy a company, you got to turn it around. It doesn't happen overnight. So I think that's why a lot of Arsenal fans are giving them the benefit of the doubt. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and also, Sophie, when you look at the squad that Lampard inherits, and you look at the squad Arteta inherits, we're nowhere near them. We are nowhere near.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough, I understand. He couldn't buy anybody, but they still had the quality. They still had the Kantes and these and that. They still had Kovacic. They got quality players everywhere.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, we don't.
I think one of the I believe this to be true. I think with Pepe, some fans I've lost my patience, and I think a lot of fans have lost their patience, but I think they're also willing to still maybe give him the benefit of the doubt. I think where Arteta and Edu have lost a lot of people is Willian. And you can't account for someone coming in and being as poor as they are. Like you said, Casey, some transfers work out, some don't. Even the greats like Manchester United, Liverpool, they've all signed players that don't work. And I think the Willian thing is the one hanging over the head. I truly believe if Willian wasn't in the team right now and he wasn't there, that there would not be as many disgruntled fans as there are right now. I think that sticks in their goat. And to know that he's got a contract that's 2-3 years as well.
I think it's 2 years. I think
2 years.
Yeah, I think it's look, it's 2 or 3 years, right, Sophie? But look, let's have it right here. Willian isn't Arsenal's problem. He's not Arsenal's problem.
No, he's Arsenal fans' problem.
Yeah, he's Arsenal fans' problem, but he's not the Arsenal's problem. Arsenal's problem is we don't have the culture to move the club forward. That's Arsenal's problem. So whether Willian came in and he hit the ground running or whether he is like he is, the fact of the matter is if Arsenal had the culture and the squad, then Willian's performances wouldn't matter because we have the squad to push on. The problem is we don't have the squad to push on. And then when Mikel Arteta makes some changes to give players an opportunity and the players can't perform, all of a sudden the fan base going meltdown because it looks as though he's trying to lose the FA Cup. He's picking a team not to win and all this kind of thing. He's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't, unfortunately. Our problem is the mentality of the football club for the last 12 plus years hasn't been to be the best, hasn't been to win. And when you have a club that isn't geared to win like Arsenal, you have got major problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And Harry made a really good point about players kind of being complacent, living the London life. I just had it on screen right now, and it's true. Just too kind of easy breezy. Nothing was a challenge. No one's place was under attack or under fire. You didn't have to come in. Here it is. Players got comfortable, huge contracts, living the London life, watching managers come and go, and sadly not caring enough. Goodbye. Thanks for trying. Now let's move forward with the players we want. And we know who we want. The fans know who they want. And it's evident to everybody who isn't even an Arsenal fan to see where the future lies. And that is with the players that we mentioned earlier. And hopefully we'll grow on that. And we'll talk about, I'm going to get the pronunciation of his name correct, by the way. I think it's Odegaard. I've seen him play a little bit. I don't know a ton about
quite
him.
A lot, so
and you have KC because you've been covering La Liga. And here's what? We're going to make him our player profile.
All of last season, I watched him. He was on loan at Real Sociedad.
Yep.
And I've got to say, wow. Do you know who's going to be licking his lips? Aubameyang.
If he's played down the middle?
Well, it doesn't matter.
He's on the left. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Because this kid, if he gets the opportunity, he will see the pass and he will play the pass early to utilize Aubameyang's speed. So, you know what? Yeah, it is a try, but not necessarily a buy. But you know what? To find players like this who could pick a pass, it's not easy. There's not a lot of players like this around. So to even get him for half a season, let's see what he could do. Let's see if we can get Aubameyang firing again. Because I think that's going to be really important if we're going to really push up this league.
Right. And it's, listen, guys, it's low risk. Okay. It's a loan deal. And he had the choice to stay and he chose to go to Arsenal. He wanted to relish the opportunity to come to a top club in the Premier League. No matter what people think of where we're at right now, the name and the badge, Kevin has said this many times on our show, it's still an attraction playing for Arsenal Football Club. We have brand equity in our name. And the fact that a player like that wants to come, and he's a player that we desperately need. And we're going to get into him a little bit later on this week when we do our player profile. KC, instant gratification. How has the modern game gone too far? I think it has in many ways. I think we all agree that money has infused some negatives, but at the same time, without the money, we wouldn't be able to enjoy certain luxuries of how we watch the game, from all corners of the earth. The players that we've been able to see, the players that, we're able to see in the Premier League, what makes the league that we love so competitive. At the end of the day, we want Arsenal to be successful. And at the same time, we also don't want to be a knee-jerk reaction club, which we're not, because Wenger stayed longer than obviously he should have. And let's hope that we're able to strengthen the squad and keep changing the culture and get Arsenal back to where they need to be. I'm going to end asking you this question, and I asked it on another pod, but I want you to let everyone in chat know what you think. As we live in this instant gratification world, if Arteta does not win the Europa League and we finish in 11th or below 10th, does he keep his job?
100% he does. Again, 100%. Because what's the point in having somebody to start stripping the house and then you're going to get somebody else to come? It's not going to make the house any quicker. It's not going to do the house any quicker. The football club ain't just going to change because the new manager comes in. There is serious surgery that needs to happen on this football club. It's not just the squad, it's the football club, Sophie. Mm-hmm. And if you're giving him the reins to build, then you've got to let him build. And if he starts putting the culture in place and things don't work out, then you could always get rid of him. But at least there's a culture in place. The problem is, when Wenger left, there should have been a culture in place for Unai Emery. Experienced manager, proven that his coaching, etc., worked for a period, but couldn't get over the line. Freddie took over a little bit. Now Arteta's in there. He's done a little bit with the team and won an FA Cup, won a trophy. Brilliant. But the problems are still there. We're only starting to see him open the cupboards, and you're looking and you're seeing the rot. You're seeing the rotten walls, and you're seeing the damp of the house. We need to clean up our act. We need to clean our house up. Our house has been derelict for too long, Sophie.
Yeah.
And we need to get it. And I know, but if he doesn't win this and we finish 10 or 11th, we might not finish 10 or 11th. But I just think what we have to do is get Arteta moving this club forward. And then we'll see. Because it's still not his team.
Yep. I agree with that. And for me, I think, come November, October next year, after another transfer window in the summer, if things are not going well and we're in the same position, then I think the club has every right to look at that.
Yeah, you could look at it. Yeah,
of course. Say it's not working. Because by then he should have his team in his image. And
the summer's the key. Yeah.
Yeah. And we all know, ex-players have come back and done well at teams. We've talked about it a lot on the show. Pep, Barcelona, Conte, Juventus, Simeone at Atletico Madrid. We can go far back as even to say Johan Cruyff going back to his teams, and Dalglish, and even Bob Paisley. How far back do you want to go, Super Kev? And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it's legendary. And until he's able to really create the team in his image with his players, his personality, his persona, and we're not going to be able to truly judge. But that doesn't mean we can't criticize him whether we win, lose, or draw.
Sophie, one thing I will say, and I know there's a lot of people who think I protect Arteta. I don't. The game is still about winning. Whether he's in transition and we're changing the culture, it's still about winning. You still have to win football matches.
Yes.
Now, let's be honest. If we'd have continued losing games where we were, Arteta's position would have been untenable at times because the fans wouldn't have stood for it. But the fact of the matter is, he's starting to change certain things, and youngsters are coming in, and the youngsters have put the team on their back and all that kind of thing, which is crazy for me. Having youngsters carrying the team, it shouldn't happen, but I'm so pleased it has.
Yeah.
But the key is he has to manage and get enough results to keep the fan base cool until his team is ready. That's what he has to do, because he can't keep going on spells of losing. No, we're not going to have it. We're not going to have it. So
no, that can't be.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, that's your lot for today. I love shows like this where we're not dissecting games and tactics and talking about whether we won, lost, or drew. Gosh, my grammar. I'm tired. I haven't been well, you guys. Just so you know, last couple of days had a bit of I don't have COVID, which is good news. Touch wood. So we'll be back tomorrow, post-game, Southampton. We better win that. Super Kev. We better win that.
All the rested players will be back.
What's your prediction for tomorrow, real quick, before we go?
I think I said 2. I think I said 2.
You said 2-1?
No, did I say 2-2? I said 2-2, but I think Arsenal will win, though. I said 2-2 before, but I think Arsenal's going to win. Arsenal going to win 2-1.
2-1. I like that. Yeah. Very positive. I think Southampton might have a hangover from the FA Cup win. They played a lot of their... I will rip his head off. If we lose, don't say that, Newman, but I will. I will rip his head off. You're absolutely right.
As you will, Newman.
Thanks to everyone who joined. I'm glad that you enjoyed today's show. Really means a lot to us. And thanks so much for spending your time with me and the legend that is Super Kevin Campbell. Tomorrow we'll be back after the Southampton game. So let's hope we're waxing lyrical about a great performance. On Wednesday, just to give you the agenda for this week, we have Kevin Says. Remember, that's your show. You get to do, you get to listen to Casey's thoughts. He fires questions at you and you answer them. And then you get to ask him anything you want. On Thursday, we will do the player profile on our new loanee signing, and someone eventually will tell me how to pronounce his name correctly, and I will get that correct. I think it's Odegaard is what I'm hearing. So that's that. And then on Friday, I'm going to let you wait because I'll tell you maybe on Wednesday what we're doing on Friday. But it involves all of you, which you're going to be very excited about. And we also have a wee announcement to make. It's not mega news, but it's just a wee announcement. Some good things happening at the show. So we couldn't do it without you. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Brilliant. Adore each and every one of you. And it means the world to us that you hang out with us. So we'll see you tomorrow night. And until then, Super Kev.
Come on, you Gunners. Win, win, win.
I mean, if you're not inspired by that.